Hey guys, great to have you here today. In this video, we're going to talk about 3 keys to help you get better extension, get those long arms coming through contact, and how this power cord can actually make that happen. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, for those of you who join us on YouTube, make sure to click that subscribe button down below. You'll see it right below your screen here, or if you're on a mobile device, just go ahead and click the drop down, click subscribe from there. That way you don't miss out on any of our latest videos. We got some awesome videos coming I think are really going to help you guys on your game, so make sure you subscribe now. All right, so let's talk about extension and why it's a good thing, why you don't want to stay down and not extend up coming through contact. So if we're looking from the face-on view, as you're coming through contact, what's happening here is this club should be moving from a lower position. I'm going to really exaggerate here, but it should be coming from a lower position. The butt end of the club is then going to turn up and in. So if we can kind of imagine there's a plane of glass shooting kind of through the hands, just as a very general idea, that club is coming up and in on that plane of glass. So it's not turning straight up like this, it's turning up and in. So your entire swing is on an angle like that. And as that club starts to turn up, it's going to get some more speed. So if I have this club low and I imagine pulling it up that plane of glass, you can see how that club is really going to accelerate under its momentum. So you don't have to put as much force in the club to be able to get it to accelerate a little bit faster. Now if I start to stay tall and cast, that's going to be the opposite things happening. So this is very common. What I'll see players do is they'll kind of stand up out of the shot, their hands get farther from the ground, and now I'm trying to push the club. It feels more powerful, but it's actually a less powerful motion. If I go ahead and hit a driver here, we can see exactly what that looks like. So I just cold topped it. It's tough for me to hit the ball. It's not my normal swing doing that. But I stood up, I flipped the hands, lost a lot of lag. I didn't really get extension at the right time. So what is the difference there? If I'm staying down, then we're saying that we want to extend up, then how does that make sense? It doesn't really make a lot of sense there. It's all about when you extend. So the bad swing that I just showed, I'm extending too early. I'm standing up very early. I'm throwing my hands very early. In a good swing, what I want to have happen is I want to start that downswing. I want there to be some flex in my knees. I'm almost feeling my knees separate a little bit, almost like I'm going to play defense in basketball. My knees are coming out. I have some bend, and you'll notice from my right femur to my overall torso angle, I've created an angle there. And if you want to bring the camera over here to about a 45 race, what's going to happen there, that's what's happening in my downswing. Now once my arms get about halfway into the downswing, through there to what we call the straight line release, I'm now going to be extending. So if we take this same angle that did have a flex in it, I'm extended now where the angle between my upper femur, my right femur, and my overall torso is pretty much a straight line. So as you're opening, that is straightening up. And if I do that correctly, I'm getting the hands lower, and then I'm turning that grip up as I extend. So in a nutshell, if we're thinking about this from the hips, as we start the downswing, I want to keep those legs flexed. And as I go straight through to the straight line release, or releasing this club where it's fully released, 45 degrees in front, now I want to have that extension. I want my chest to be coming up. I want my arms and hands to be coming up, which is what we'll talk about in the next part of this video. I'll go ahead and hit a ball doing this, and now we can see how that extension aids in getting this club to whip on through and get a lot more power. So that's why you see guys that are smaller guys like Justin Thomas creating tons of speed. Not a very big, strong guy, but he can really create a lot of power. He's using the club properly to create speed without being super, super strong. So let's try it out here. There we go, hit that one great. Right center of the fairway, really put some power into that. And I really felt like I got low to start the downswing, bit my legs, and then as I released on through, I felt like my legs were extended. Not only my right leg, but my left leg is extended. My chest is moving back up. Now, a great way to visualize that, I talked about earlier, is the power cord. So I can imagine if I had a power cord here, and this is just a great way to visualize it. You don't have to actually do this if you don't want to. But if I grab one hand on my belt buckle in the lower part of the power cord, I grab one hand on my shirt buttons. I'll try not to smush my mic there so you guys can still hear me. As I go into the downswing or start the downswing, my hands are lower like this, my legs are bent, and as I come through to the straight line release, I unplug that cord. My hands are separating as I'm doing this. So you don't have to actually have a power cord. That's just kind of demonstrate how that would work. you can just grab both pieces of your shirt and your belt buckle, feel like your hands get closer together starting down, and then as they come up, you're gonna feel like it really stretches apart. If you grab your shirt, you can really feel that stretch from top to bottom, and my chest is almost leaning back a little bit. And the only reason we're doing that again is to get that club to whip up through contact and get that real flash of speed happening right at the ball. That's why pro players, you know, their club's only moving about 50, 60 miles an hour halfway in the downswing, maybe not even that fast with some of the guys, and then it's accelerating over 110, 120 miles an hour in just that short period of time. That's all that whipping action that's happening from the arms. Now the next piece of this is the chest. So we talked about what the lower body's gonna do, what the legs are gonna do. Now let's talk about what exactly is the chest gonna do. And the big key here is in my finish. If I imagine my shirt buttons, there's almost a laser shooting out of my shirt buttons. As I go into the downswing, I want this laser kind of pointing somewhere down to the ground. As I start to come through contact and I get into what we call a straight line release before, I want my chest to be angled pretty flat there. So I have my shirt buttons pointing down, and then as I come through and I extend my legs like we talked about, my shirt buttons are gonna come up a little bit. And what that allows us to do is to really get that arm moving up, which we'll talk about here in a second. A great way to visualize this is, as I start my downswing, and I'm about halfway down, again, feel like my chest, if I had a laser pointing out of it, I would pause here and it'd be pointing behind the ball somewhere. As I come on through to the straight line release, now I want it to be pointing up and about 45 degrees that way. So halfway in the downswing, it's down and back. Halfway into the follow through, the straight line release here, it's pointing up and forward. If we do that a good 15, 20, 30 times, you'll start to get the feel for that. Things are gonna get a lot easier. So let's go ahead and hit another one. And this time watch my chest, how it's gonna go more from a down to an up position as I'm coming through the shot. All right guys, so now the final link to this is what's happening with the left shoulder and the arm. So same thing, as I start down, I'm gonna imagine if you put a club across your shoulders, go ahead and grab it with your fingertips, cross your arms and put it way up high on your shoulders here. Now just trace my left shoulder, my lead shoulder. As I start that downswing, you'll notice how it's lower, much lower than my right shoulder. And then from there, I'm gonna keep it kind of tracing that same plane of glass like we talked about. And as I extend up to my straight line release position, that would be this position in the golf swing, notice how that left shoulder pops up a lot higher. So here it's lower, and then it goes higher and stays in that angle as it's happening. So that's happening at the same time, and that's kind of the last link here. If that shoulder can work from low to high, that's gonna get this hand working from low to high and really get it to whip on through there. Now it's not very much. One of the questions I get a lot is, you know, when you talk about the hands getting low and I'm showing them way down here and then the hands really raising up, it doesn't have to be that much. Only an inch or two to really get a noticeable difference. So if I look at the height of the club there with some lag, as I pull it up just a few inches as I'm coming on through, you know, it's gonna raise up quite a bit, or my hands aren't gonna raise up that much, and the club is gonna stay pretty level. This is what we call impact glide on the website also. So when I'm hitting these shots, what should be happening is my hands are getting lower, the club's getting closer to the ground, and then as this butt end of the club pulls up, now the club tracks very level with the turf. So notice how I can have to exaggerate this idea, this feeling, I can have the club already on the ground there, and as I pull this club up, it's gonna stay on the ground. That's what we call a flat spot, or the impact glide. Your club is just gonna flatten out and glide through contact. That's why you can see the pros hit those divots and they're just like taking a razor blade, just taking the top level of turf off there, and they have this perfect flat level of divots that they've taken. It's not deep and thin and shallow and chunky and toe down and all that kind of stuff. It's coming in very, very level, and that's that, again, getting that extension and coming low to high. The last piece I would think about here with the arm is my left arm will be flying away from my body in the follow through, but if I tend to do that early, so I tend to kind of stay down and flip with my hands, what that's gonna do is that's gonna cause my elbow to come off the chicken wing. So if you're chicken wing, you don't have enough extension. It's also gonna cause that flip or that early release. So what I can feel here is as my shoulder turns up, I'm gonna feel like my left arm is straight, longer, and almost against my body as this happens. The only way that can happen is if I rotate open and I get that shoulder moving up. If I stay down, I'm gonna have to push the club across with my hands and arms. Chicken wing, flip, a lot of stuff that you don't want to have happen. So finally, let's do 20 or 30 reps. We're focusing just on that shoulder and that lead arm. And I'm gonna go low, really exaggerating your practice swings, super low. And then as you come into the straight line release, I'm gonna feel like my chest is pointing up, my left arm's against my side nice and straight. And I'm gonna feel like my hands are a little bit down to really extend that club out. That's the same thing you're seeing with all the top pros when they're swinging. So let's go ahead and try that out. I'll show you a slow motion video here too. Notice how that left arm stays straight, very long in the swing, doesn't chicken wing up. Now the next piece to go with this is what we talked about in this video, is the straight line release. Here we talked about the body, my hips, my shoulders, my arms, everything extending up to get that club to release in front, but there's a little bit more work to do to get that club releasing consistently every time. If we want to take all the hit and chicken wing out of our swing, we've got to get to where we feel comfortable releasing hips, shoulders, arms, hands to that straight line release point in the front. I have an awesome bonus video for you. Play a preview of that here in a second. Just click the card up on the screen or the link down below in the description. You'll get instant access to that. You'll start releasing that club in front. And when you pair that up with what we talked about here today with extension, that's going to be an awesome 1-2 punch. You guys are going to start hitting some great shots. Let's go and get started.
A common misconception I see is that we want to create lag and we just want to hold that lag all the way on through contact and get as much lag as we can coming through contact. And that's simply not true. In the release section, we're going to talk about how to turn that lag into energy, how to turn that into speed so that you can hit it very far and do it, like we mentioned, without hardly any effort at all. And as we're coming through contact, we're going to fully release this angle as we're about 45 past contact. So if I draw, a 45-degree angle, I should be looking at both arms, nice and straight, the club splitting those arms, so that by releasing the club, by getting this angle to release as we're coming through contact, that's what's going to create the speed. Our hands are moving a very short distance, our club is moving a very long distance through contact, and it creates that whip-like effect.
Very different swings, hitting the exact same position. So first let's take a look at Dustin Johnson, releasing the club 45 past. And the reason we're going to see such different swings producing similar positions is that this is the real physics of how this has to happen. Here we're looking at Sergio Garcia. Again, we're going to see tons